Coming up on today's edition of NFL Daily, we're breaking down some potential trade candidates, specifically after June 1st. That date does matter for the NFL. For a lot of players, a lot of teams, they have more salary cap space from previous designations of post-June 1st cuts, and they can trade players after June 1st and save some money in the short term. So we'll break down a bunch of different potential trade candidates. I think at least one of these guys ends up getting dealt, with the obvious one being Jalen Ramsey. The Miami Dolphins cornerback has been the subject of a lot of conversation on NFL and across the NFL because the Dolphins have said they are going to try to trade him. And this is maybe the best example of why waiting until after June 1st can benefit some teams. As of right now, he's got a $16.6 million cap hit. They trade him today before June 1st. They lose an additional $12.5 million in savings. After June 1st, they save 5.9. Now, the difference there comes in 2026, but the cap's higher. That's next year. You can still roll over money. It's almost always beneficial to try to save as much money short term because it's not use it or lose it. It does roll over into the next season. So you can't say Jalen Ramsey in the comments. I don't want to see a bunch of Ramseys in there. Name a player, not named Jalen Ramsey, who you think gets dealt. Let me know in the comments of today's show. A player with a murky future right now is Jaire Alexander. The Packers are trying to work out a restructured contract. What happens if they don't, though? He's owed $17.5 million in cash this year. Again, there's a lot of issues with all of these players. That's why they haven't been moved so far in most cases. The Packers would save $17 million if they traded or cut Alexander after June 1st. Non-guaranteed $19.5 million next year. When healthy, he's really good. Hasn't been healthy consistently. At least the last 2 years. He's played 14 games. He's played 16 games in 2022, 4 in 2021. That's not a lot of games. That's missing a significant amount of time as of late. But there is value there. Let's go to a quarterback. You don't normally see post-June 1st trades at QB because they're too important. You might see one with Kirk Cousins. Has a current $40 million cap hit, which kind of negates the Falcons' benefits of having a cheap young QB like Michael Penix. You're still paying a franchise QB rate. He's due $27.5 million this year, $45 million next year, 10 of which is guaranteed. So as of right now, worst case, or maybe best case, everyone will define it, 1 year, $37.5 million is what the new team would owe. The Falcons would only save $2.5 million with a pre-June 1st trade. That number then balloons to $27.5 after June 1st. But who wants Kirk Cousins right now? The Falcons have shown a hesitancy to take on any additional money in a trade, which I think doesn't, makes it less appealing for their teams, given the fact that Cousins got benched last year, wasn't very good. He's not at OTAs, though. He is looking to find a starting spot somewhere. Pittsburgh, or if a QB gets hurt, kind of feels like the options there for Kirk. It's very similar to the Sam Bradford situation all those seasons ago. So predictions. What will the Falcons end up doing with Kirk Cousins? K for keep, T for they trade him. They can't cut him, by the way. A lot of these guys just, the money's not cuttable because there's a bunch of guaranteed stuff. Let's go to Will Levis, the quarterback for the Titans. He's obviously not the guy anymore. That's Cam Ward. He's not owed very much money. It's $1.62 million this year and a little over $2 million next year, all of which, though, is guaranteed. That's not a lot of money to pay a backup QB. They do save an additional $1 million-ish if they do it after June 1st. Levis has size, he's got mobility, he's got arm strength, and is missing kind of all the other stuff. That's why he had 13 touchdowns against 12 interceptions, plus some fumbles, and felt like a meme-worthy play once a week, took a bunch of sacks. This would be a maybe someone can fix him developmental guy. Maybe the Rams, but even then, I think they're just better off letting Stafford play still and not maybe getting someone else later down the line. PFF had mentioned DJ Reader as a post-June 1st candidate. I'm not sure I buy it. I get the Lions drafted Tyke Williams, but they have a lot of injuries up front. Reader's still pretty darn good. His cap hit's $12.93 million, owed $7 million in cash. Lions already paid out a roster bonus for DJ Reader. That's $4 million. So they don't really save a ton. They do save $7.69 after June 1st, but why pay the $4 million roster bonus? the way I understand the contract, at least it has been paid, to move on from a good player. Raiders just has long been, dating back to his time with the Texans, just a good run stopper. He's a good run clogger. He does his job so well. Lots of teams would have interest. The Lions should keep him. Now, I bet the Eagles would love to find a trade partner for Bryce Huff. Some of these players, the other teams don't want him. And that's the case going on here with Bryce Huff. His cap hit's pretty low. It's only $7.41 million because the Eagles backload everything. That's how they've been able to be so aggressive. He's actually owed $16.75 million in cash. It's guaranteed. They can't cut him. They would still lose $4.69 if they traded him before June 1st, $4.39 in savings after June 1st. $17.1 million due in non-guaranteed cash next year. Does a team want to take on almost $17 million in cash for Bryce Huff this year, which would only be 1 year? It wouldn't be the cap hit in year one, but that's what they'd owe him, to not have good play? Huff has been a good pass rusher. Even 2022, some of the underlying metrics indicated this guy could have a good breakout season. He did, had 10 sacks, was a healthy scratch for the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I don't know if a team wants to take on Bryce Huff given that contract, what he got production-wise this past season. Deal for you guys, NFL polos are on sale for up to 60% off, and really 64% even for some. But 60% sounds better. Wish it was 69%. Chatsports.com/NFL polo. Link is in the comments section and the description of today's show. You'll have to filter and sort by your favorite team, but there are a bunch of styles and variety available. Get yours today. It's a good Father's Day gift, by the way. Chatsports.com/NFL polo. Talked to Chase Sr. He gave me Bryce Huff and Jaire Gross-Matos, the Niners edge rusher. This one's kind of in an awkward spot. He's due $8 million in cash. Because the Niners have some void years on his contract in the final year of his deal, it actually saves $7.8 if they were to trade him this offseason. But is anyone going to pay $8 million for a guy that is just kind of a 4-sack player? He showed some flashes in only 11 games this year for the 49ers, but they really almost went out of their way, I think correctly, by the way, to overhaul that defensive end room. They have Nick Bosa. They spend the first-round pick on Micah Williams. They're hoping for other young guys like Robert Beal to impress. They want to make their number 3 edge at $8 million. If they can find a partner, I think they'd have some interest there. Let's go to Michael Mayer, the Raiders side. Remember him? Yeah, kind of had some weird stuff going on behind the scenes that I think raised some pretty big question marks on that front for Mayer. I don't know what his future ends up holding with the Raiders. He's pretty darn cheap, though. From a contract perspective, he's due less than $1.6 million in cash. He's due a not really fully guaranteed contract in 2026. So he's super cheap and affordable. I'm just not sure what his overall future in the NFL holds. I thought he would have been traded by now if the Raiders had a partner, because there's not massive savings to do it post June 1st. We'll see how that one plays out. We will have more NFL news and rumors videos for you right here on the channel. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Let's go to Kendrick Bourne, the Patriots wide receiver, talking about overhauls of a room. The Patriots stand out there. Bourne has a $7.7 million cap hit in 2025. There's $6.5 million in cash owed. They'd save almost all of that with a post-June 1st trade, and there's a 6.5 non-guaranteed figure in 2026. You just cut and move on if you don't want to pay him that after year one. That's not too challenging for an NFL team. But he's been not great. There's another player we'll get to here. I've noticed this over the last few years of you can get a good starting running back for the price of a mediocre wide receiver 3. I don't know if a team wants to pay Bourne as fast as he is. That type of play. You want to pay him $7 million for 300, 400 yards? 2021 version, yeah. The last 3 years, even with time missed, not really. Let's go to Curtis Samuel. Again, I think there is a red flag market to an extent. He's owed $7.4 million in cash. The Bills would save almost all of that after June 1st. $8 million in cash, non-guaranteed next season. There's some players I'm like, how do these guys keep getting these contracts? And Curtis Samuel's one of them for me. He was solid with the Commanders in 2023 and then wasn't a big factor in Buffalo. And right now, it really does feel like he's in line to be a backup for them. Keon Coleman, Joshua Palmer, Khalil Shakir. They signed Elijah Moore. Like, Samuel could be receiver 5. You want to pay receiver 5 that much money? Makes him a prime, at least trade candidate, given that a lot of his contract is guaranteed for this year. Makes it tough to cut him. All right, these next 5 names, there's not really any benefits to doing it after June 1st, but I think they are prime trade candidates, and I still wanted to make sure to mention them. Trey Hendrickson leads the way for obvious reasons. He has requested a trade and hasn't gotten it. The Bengals are not paying him very much this year. It's $16 million with a trade is what they would save and what the new team would owe. Of course, you're also giving Hendrickson a massive contract. So the cost of the current deal for Hendrickson doesn't matter. He wants to get paid because he's averaged 17.5 sacks the last 2 seasons. It's been remarkably productive. He's awesome at football. That's why the Bengals should just pay him, because that defense is bad, really bad, if they don't have him at all. So I don't know if he gets dealt. I feel like in the end, somebody blanks from the Bengals and Hendrickson, but it's worth mentioning because he has a trade request out there. So predictions. What will the Bengals end up doing with Trey Hendrickson? D for dump, P for pay. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. He's not the only Bengal with a trade request out there. That's kind of wild to say it out loud. We've all forgotten about Jermaine Pratt. That is the Bengals linebacker who has an $8.18 million cap hit. The Bengals would save, and the new team would owe, just the cash that's left, $5.85 million. Pratt, the tackle numbers say awesome, 143 last year. I thought he kind of struggled. The Bengals drafted Demetrius Knight in round 2 to effectively replace Jermaine Pratt. They also drafted Barrett Carter. They signed Oren Burks. They clearly don't plan on keeping Pratt, but they haven't traded him yet. It's kind of a weird situation with Pratt and the Bengals. Go to Travis Etienne, the Jags running back. Of note, wasn't present for the start of OTAs. Don't know if that really means anything at all, or if he's just mad that they drafted Bashal Tutin. He's got a 5th-year option. It's fully guaranteed, $6.14 million. That's what the Jags would save for the trade and what the new team would owe. When healthy, he's been pretty good. He's been a 1,000-yard runner over the course of his career. He hasn't been healthy, and he kind of really fell off last season, which puts him in kind of a weird spot, a weird situation going forward. I like him, but I wonder if he's worth the money given what happened last season. I think an under-the-radar trade candidate is actually Jerome Ford. Obviously, we don't expect the Browns to bring back Nick Chubb, but the Browns restructured Ford's contract, and I think part of that was to kind of make it more tradable. $1.83 million cap hit, very small signing bonus, a guaranteed base salary of $1.75 million. Ford has been efficient when he's got the ball, but sometimes doesn't always. Sometimes it's kind of like feast or famine with Jerome Ford that I think can upset teams. The Browns drafted Quinshon Judkins. They drafted Dylan Sampson. They have Pierre Strong if they want to ride with him as RB3. I think Ford could be a sneaky trade candidate. And then there's Mark Andrews, who was the subject of plenty trade rumors earlier in the offseason. He has a big cap hit, $16.9 million, but only $7 million if the Ravens found a trade partner. Andrews' production has dipped. He was like the most productive tight end in football back in 2021. The drops have kind of become more of an issue for him as of late. The production has very much kind of declined as well. Isaiah Likely might be the best tight end on this roster. Can Charlie Kolar be a piece for them as well? I don't know if this one happens, but I think it is worth mentioning still.